Hey everyone, Ripley Sellers with Bob's Watches. I'm here with Justin in the studio for another episode of Vintage of the Week, where we highlight one amazing vintage watch and share it with you. And as always, whatever we're talking about is going to be available on the site for purchase, so if you like what you see, head on over to the site and add it to your collection.
So today, Ripley, we have a beautiful vintage Rolex Submariner 5513. But before we get into it, let's do a quick wrist check.
Well, I love a sub. I love a sub so much I bought one, so I'm wearing my sub.
Very
Reference
appropriate.
16610. It's 30 years old. Not quite as old as the one we're talking about here, but figured it was in theme. What about you?
Well, I didn't go the dive watch route, but I went classic nonetheless. I'm going with the Omega Speedmaster. I love this watch. You know, I wear it every chance I get. I'm going a little different. I like it on leather, but I'm going with the canvas today. It's that black kind of textured canvas that they have. And honestly, I really like it. It's comfortable. I think it looks great, and it's a little bit different. So yeah, got my nod.
Sub and Speedmaster, probably two of the most iconic sports watches and tool watches. So,
absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. We got a vintage 5513 today, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about vintage subs, you know, it's hardly the first sub, but probably the 5513 is like the quintessential vintage sub. They made it for such a long time, from the beginning of the 60s all the way to the end of the 80s.
Right.
And within it, it's the only sub that spans all three dial types. You get gilt dials on the early side, you get matte dials in the middle, and on the tail end years, you get glossy with white gold markers. So it's, you know, tons of variation.
Right.
You get all the weird like mil sub and Comex sub varieties, and it's a fantastic reference to study and collect. And this is a beautiful example that we have right here.
This one's really nice. I love the 5513. To start out, it's a time-only piece, which holds a special place in my heart. I love time-only. Also, this version has the Maxi Dial, which I think is fantastic looking, right?
Yeah, I love Maxi Dials. So like you, love matte dials in general.
Right.
I think it's kind of in that sweet spot. It's decidedly vintage. It's a fraction of the price of some of the early gilt dial examples. But unlike the later era ones that have a dial that looks like my watch, it really grounds it in that vintage era. But the Maxi Dials, it's the final evolution of the matte dial.
Yes.
So, you know, after they had the matte dial come in '67, that was produced until they switched over to a dial like mine with white gold markers.
Yeah.
But in around '77 until about '84, they made the matte Maxi Dial, where it's got bigger luminous plots, and to me, I love that. It just seems more balanced.
I do too, and to me, it really screams tool watch, right? This was right before they started the little more luxury feel that I think with the white gold surrounds, you know, that's kind of that evolution into the more luxury watch instead of the more tool watch. And, you know, with the giant Lume Plots, I mean, it's just pure function, right? It just screams tool watch. It's giant pieces of lume on your dial so that you can easily read it when you need to, and I love that. I mean, it goes back to like the roots of the Submariner being a straight tool watch.
It's like, yeah, like you said, it's the final evolution of the sub is a tool watch. So this example is from '83, so we're really like, you know, the following year or two, they're switching over to glossy dials, and just like look at the difference between just the size of the hour markers and the overall appearance between it and mine. You know, the markers themselves are literally larger than even like the metallic
the Lume and the surround.
Yeah. So, and it, you know, with it being matte rather than gloss, it's a significantly different immediate appearance. And then you also have to think about what Rolex was doing at the time. So in the mid '80s, it was really when they started to pick it up and make it a luxury manufacturer.
Yeah.
And as soon as they switched the dial type in this 5513, its whole vibe changed.
Yes.
I love all styles, but the matte, it is identifiably a tool watch.
It is, and like you said, it has that vintage feel. If we can compare it to your watch again, this is a great comparison showing the two dials. Like you said, the Maxi Dial has the larger Lume Plots that are larger than the Lume and surround on the newer version. But this is a great example to show just the cleanliness of the dial. Just look how simple it is. It has the two lines of text on the bottom. It has no date window, no cyclops. It's somewhat sterile, somewhat simple in the best way. And I think it has a really clean, nice look to it, right? It's not cluttered. It's just pure. I guess pure is the best way I can put it.
And also, as long as the comparison's there, it's in really good shape too. You know, very clean dial, matching patina on the hands. Bezel hasn't been worn. I mean, obviously my sub's quite a bit beat up, and someone over polished it before I got it. But like, look at the lugs, the difference in thickness of lugs. You know, they're both 40mm cases, but you know, if you look right here and here, you can see one piece of metal on the 5513 is quite a bit thicker.
Yeah. That brings me to another point about this watch, is this one actually has the full kit with it. So we have box and papers. I can kind of show some of that. We have like the old catalogs. We have the outer box, the inner box, the booklet with the papers, the calendar. It even has the original hang tag and the original sticker. And all the numbers match too. So the numbers on the papers, serial number on the hand tag, serial number on the watch. It's a full kit. Everything matches. And honestly, I'm surprised more people don't do that to save their sticker. I know. That's so genius. Yes. That's so genius. So often you see a vintage watch of this era that still has a sticker, and it's like the crustiest thing that's barely hanging on to life, but very nice little touch. And nice to see everything included on a watch so old that someone took the time to save everything and keep it in such good condition. And as a collecting piece, I mean, we know that adds value. It just, to me, it adds nostalgia, and I just love all that history with it. Yeah, and also compared to like a gilt dial 5513, this is a screaming deal. You know what I mean? Right. It's the same reference number, but you're going to be paying significantly less. Yes. And it's a bit special. It's not just your average matte dial. Get a Maxi matte dial as well, so additional talking points, and it's just a really clean watch. It is a very clean watch, yeah. Yeah, and then obviously compared to the gilt dials, it's quite a bit cheaper. But then compared to like a 5512, where you're talking about how clean the dial is, 5512's got more text, and it costs quite a bit more. Yeah. They're more rare, but if you're looking for a no-date vintage sub, honestly, the de facto reference I'd point people to, unless they wanted to spend a fortune and get into something really, really kind of granular and unique, matte dial 5513. Absolutely, and I agree. I've had that sentiment for a long time, where I know the 5512 is more desirable, it's more collectible, whatever, which also brings quite a bit higher price tag. I love the 5513. I think it's a little bit overlooked on that. Maybe people either don't give it as much credit or as much of a look because it's not, the 5512 is like the hot one that everyone wants. When it comes down to it, I think it's a beautiful watch, and it has, has a lot of great features and can save you some money, which, can be put to something else in your collection. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're just collecting vintage subs, you almost need a matte dial variation in there somewhere. So if you wanted to get a gilt 5512 and a matte 5513, that seems like a really smart way to go about that. Absolutely. And this is a great one for the matte too. Like you said, after this, they went to the glossy dial, they went to the white gold surrounds. So this is a fantastic example that still has that inherently vintage look. Like when you see Lume Plots with no surrounds, when you see a matte dial, those things instantly recognizable as vintage. Big domed acrylic crystal. Exactly, all those things. So when you're talking about a vintage Submariner, this ticks all the boxes for me, really. And a beautiful patina on this one. It's just kind of just the right amount of creamy, but it's not, it's not too warm where you're kind of getting that orange, pumpkin-y kind of tones. That's a really good point. I do really like this patina, and that's a very subjective thing. Some people like the most they can get, some people like none, and everywhere in between. I personally don't like the too much patina when it's very orange and very dark brown. Just personally, for my taste, I just like that little bit of off color that kind of reminds you that it's it has some history and it's an old watch. And this one's great. It's you can tell it's been worn but not abused, and it's just a beautiful piece. Oh, but you want your old vintage tool watches to have a little bit of wear. You know, if it doesn't have any wear, it hasn't had a life, and that's for something like a dive watch where you kind of want it. Imagine what it did before you got it. Right. Sometimes it's nice to see that little scuff and wonder how it got there. Yeah, character. And this one, as far as history with the full kit, you can see when it was purchased, where it was purchased, all the numbers match and everything. All the pieces are there. Yeah, for the collector that wants the full set, this is very full, sticker included. Nice. And again, this is one that's actually for sale on our site, right? Yeah, absolutely. So if we're talking about it on this series, it's available for purchase on the website. And since they are vintage watches, each one's different. And if they like what they see, buy it because there's one of these with this kit. Yeah, very nice example. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Vintage of the Week. Don't forget to join us next time and see what we have in store for you.